This hole is abandoned. The HOA can claim it under adverse possession.
From the tree line, a man in a dust-streaked jacket stepped forward, a rolled deed in his hand.
Who are you? This is private business. Leave now, or I'll call the sheriff.
You'll regret that more than you know.
Is that a threat? I'm the HOA chair. We don't take threats from squatters.
That afternoon, Nancy Whitfield strode into the county clerk's office with an adverse possession claim. Jack watched from the ridge as her sedan disappeared, then looked at the old document in his hand. In her home office, Nancy sipped Chardonnay, certain she'd just seized free gold. The clerk stamped the claim, and a $50 filing fee set the trap.
She just filed her own ruin, and she doesn't even know it.
The next morning, Nancy Whitfield called an emergency meeting of the HOA Executive Board.
I've discovered an abandoned gold mine on the edge of our community. The law allows us to claim it.
In his cabin, Jack Reynolds sat at a table covered with old mining journals, tracing his grandfather's annotations.
Gold? But how do we know it's really there?
Look at this map from the 1880s. It shows the vein running right under our property.
That looks convenient. Who authenticated it?
Nancy had spent the previous night altering a boundary survey with coffee stains and a photocopier.
She's weaving a net of lies, and they're starting to bite.
We need a full HOA vote to fund the excavation. This is our chance to secure the community's financial future.
Martha and Roger exchanged glances, doubt warring with temptation, as Jack watched the video feed from his cabin, biding his time. 1 week later, the HOA Community Center was packed. Nancy Whitfield stood at the podium, a freshly printed assay report clutched in her hand.
Ladies and gentlemen, this report proves high-grade gold ore. It'll fund our community for decades.
Where did this come from? It looks nothing like any geological report I've reviewed before.
A private firm verified the samples. They're the best. We need $80,000 to begin excavation.
80 grand from our reserve fund? That's over half our savings. You're asking us to gamble everything.
It's not a gamble. The vein is solid. Projected returns are 10 to 1. This is our legacy.
From the ridge, Jack watched through binoculars, jotting down the license plates of every car in the lot.
If the board approves, I'll sign it. But I want it on record that I oppose this.
All in favor, raise your hands. The motion carries. Martha, write the check. We start digging Monday.
$80,000 of their own money just bought them a federal crime, and she handed them the pen.
Monday morning, a bulldozer rumbled up the old logging road, the HOA seal freshly painted on its blade.
Start right there, by the headframe. Tear down anything that looks like an entrance.
Hours later, Jack pulled into the BLM field office parking lot. The deeds still rolled in his glove box.
Your family's claim is rock solid, Jack. We've monitored it for years. Just say when and we'll shut it down.
Not yet. Let her dig herself a felony. The deeper she goes, the worse the charges.
By noon, the excavator had bitten a 10-foot gash into the hillside, exposing only rock and pyrite. Jack returned to the overlook, setting his binoculars on the dash as the afternoon sun cut through the dust.
Every scoop of that bucket adds another year to her sentence. Keep digging, Nancy.
Nancy stood at the edge of the pit, arms crossed, impatiently tapping her heel against the scree. A BLM agent in a tan uniform sat in a black SUV a mile away, radio silent, waiting for orders that wouldn't come just yet. Week after week, the excavator bit deeper, but every bucket brought up only glittering pyrite. A contract geologist examined the pit and shook his head.
Fool's gold? That man doesn't know a thing. The real vein is deeper. We just need to go farther and faster.
Nancy, the contractor's bill is mounting. We've spent $40,000 and we have nothing but rocks. The board is asking questions.
I have a new assay right here. Deeper drilling shows high-grade ore, only 80 feet down. This is our payday.
Another report? Who ran this one? The same outfit that missed it the first time.
In his cabin, Jack spread the 1881 survey map over his laptop, the dig's GPS coordinates inching toward a shaded zone.
10 more feet, and they'll breach the federal buffer. She is about to turn a civil con into a national security event.
The aerial drone feed on his screen showed the pit a stone's throw from an old fence line marked with a faded trefoil warning sign.
If this next phase doesn't strike gold by Friday, I'm calling an emergency session to suspend funding.
The noose is tightening. Now all I have to do is wait for the snap.
Nancy ordered the bulldozer to push another 30 yards toward the old fence line, ignoring the geologist's shouted objections.
That fence is just an old property marker. It means nothing. Keep going.
In his cabin, Jack's laptop pinged. The remote radiation sensor on the DOE fence had spiked. The dig was now within 500 feet.
They've crossed into the monitored zone. She's digging straight into a federal security cordon.
A nervous operator climbed down from the excavator, holding up a chunk of dark, metallic rock. "Ma'am, this doesn't look right. It's warm."
It's just granite with some iron pyrite. Put it aside and keep moving.
Jack, watching through binoculars, saw the operator's unease. The rock looked suspiciously like ore from the old assay report from 1954.
That's not gold ore. That's pitchblendy. She's stirring up a uranium deposit.
Nancy waved the operator back into the cab and ordered the bucket deeper, her voice climbing with desperation.
She's cooking a stew that will boil over any minute. I have to decide, let it spill or blow the whistle now.
Jack's phone buzzed against the cabin table. The caller ID read, U.S. Department of Energy, Security Division.
Mr. Reynolds, this is Susan Chen. Your mind's sensors just went critical. You've got a Class B security breach on your hands.
I've been watching it. How soon can you contain it without a full scene?
We can have a team there in 6 hours, but protocol demands immediate shutdown. This is a national security matter.
Headlights swept the cabin windows as Brad Jenkins' black SUV pulled to a stop outside.
I've got a federal warrant right here, Jack. Just say the word and we'll raid the site tonight.
If I pull the trigger now, she's a footnote. If I let her dig 2 more days, she's a headline. Give me 48 hours. I need to look her in the eye one last time before the hammer falls.
You've got until Friday noon. After that, we move with full force, with or without you.
Jack ended the call, the silence of the cabin pressing in. The wheels were in motion. Tomorrow, he would confront Nancy. At first light, Jack parked his truck by the headframe, the rolled deed tight in his grip.
You again? I already warned you once. Get off this property.
This property is federal land. You're digging into a restricted zone. Stop now before it's too late.
Too late for what? You're a trespasser with a fake document.
He unrolled the deed, showing the seal and dates. Nancy snatched it.
This is a century-old relic. Anybody could have forged it. You have no claim here.
I've tried to warn you. If you keep digging, you'll face consequences you can't imagine.
Threatening again? I'm calling my lawyer. Expect a restraining order before sunset.
Jack rolled the deed, turned without another word, and walked back to his truck.
I gave her the exit. Now she owns every inch of the fallout.
Jack pulled onto the highway's shoulder and called Susan Chen. Her voice cut through before the second ring.
Our night team took soil samples 2 hours ago. The readings are off the chart. She breached the containment buffer.
Under cover of darkness, a white DOE van rolled silently onto the mine road. 2 technicians in hazmat suits extracted a core sample that clicked loud on a Geiger counter.
The sample confirms U308 contamination. This is now a Class A security incident. We will seize the site and arrest everyone present within 36 hours.
Jack drove home to find Brad Jenkins' black SUV already in his driveway, a thick file of warrants on the passenger seat.
The U.S. Attorney is charging her with felony mineral trespass, fraud, and violation of the Atomic Energy Act. They're looking at decades.
What's my role?
Stay away. You're a material witness. If you're on site, you become a target. We'll execute the operation at dawn on Friday.
Jack looked at the rolled deed on his mantle and gave a single, slow nod.
Then it's out of my hands. Now I just watch the dominoes fall.
That evening, the OA boardroom smelled of stale coffee and fear. Martha Klein dropped a thick folder on the table with a thud.
The account is nearly empty. We've spent $78,000 and all we have is a hole. Where's the gold, Nancy?
It's deeper than we thought. The vein dips sharply. I have a new assay right here that shows we're only 20 feet from a major strike.
Another assay? You've shown us 3 already. I want a written guarantee, or I'm calling a vote to suspend.
You want a guarantee? Fine. I'll host a gold reveal event at the site next Saturday. You can see the ore with your own eyes.
Murmurs rippled through the room. Martha clutched her binder, knuckles white and trembling.
Saturday? That's too late. I want to see the financials today.
Fine. I'll have my assistant email you the expense reports tonight. All above board. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a mind to manage.
Jack, watching the remote feed from his cabin, saw the room divide. He knew the event would be Nancy's last stand.
She's setting the stage for her own public execution.
The next night, Nancy crept to the excavation with a small vial. She shook gold flakes into the exposed rock, the pyrite sparkling alongside the real flecks. Jack watched through his binoculars, the lens catching the glint of the planted gold against the dull pyrite.
Gold flakes from a craft store. She's salting the mine for her big reveal. Brad. She's planting fraud evidence. Saturday morning. She's hosting a public event. That's your window.
Understood. We'll coordinate with DOE. We'll serve the order at the event. Maximum exposure.
Brad hung up and immediately called Susan Chen. The operation was moved to Saturday, 10 a.m., right in the middle of the event. The mine site lay still, the planted gold glinting under the moon, a silent indictment. Nancy sat at her computer, emailing invitations to every HOA member. Gold strike reveal, Saturday, 9 a.m. Refreshments provided. The HOA community buzzed with anticipation. The promise of free gold erasing weeks of doubt.
She's building an audience for her own arraignment.
Friday night, the cabin fireside cast long shadows. Brad Jenkins set a thick file on the table, Susan Chen unfolding a tablet beside it.
This is the 1881 patent. The Reynolds Mineral Trust covers every subsurface mineral in an area the size of New England.
She zoomed into a hand-drawn map, a red line snaking through Colorado, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, and Oregon.
She filed a claim on a single unmarked entrance. She's actually trespassed on 6 states' worth of federal mineral estate.
And that's not all. The mine doesn't hold gold. It's a uranium deposit leased to the DOE for $14 million a year.
Jack placed the dark ore on a copy of the DOE lease, the number $14 million printed clearly in the annual payment clause.
Her excavation triggered a national security alert. The U.S. attorney is charging her under the Atomic Energy Act.
Tomorrow morning, the whole community will see exactly what she's dug up, and she'll learn what adverse possession really means.
Brad closed the file. The 3 of them sat in silence, the weight of the operation settling like the ashes in the hearth. Outside, the first gray light of Saturday touched the pines. The stage was set. Jack parked his truck on the old fire road, the mine headframe visible below. He pocketed the rolled deed and walked to the tree line. Below, folding chairs faced a whiteboard. Nancy was taping a chart with bold numbers. 3 ounces per ton, est, $5 sub-mx. She adjusted the mic with a flourish.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the day you'll remember forever. We are standing on a verified gold strike worth millions.
In the second row, Martha clutched her binder, knuckles white. Beside her, Roger checked his watch and whispered to his wife. Through his binoculars, Jack read the room, greed, hope, and just enough skepticism to make the fall painful.
At least 50 people. Good. More witnesses to the collapse.
His phone buzzed. A text from Brad. 5 minutes out. Stay out of sight.
5 minutes. She's about to meet the people she robbed.
The crowd settled, folding chairs creaking. Nancy tapped the microphone, a piercing squeal cutting the mountain quiet. Jack pulled the rolled deed from his jacket, feeling the weight of 6 states in his palm. The stage was set and the curtain was about to fall. A diesel cloud rolled up the fire road. 3 black Suburbans, Department of the Interior plates glinting, stopped in a line behind the folding chairs. Nancy's smug expression shattered. Silence fell as Brad Jenkins walked toward the whiteboard, a red sealed document raised in his hand.
By order of the Bureau of Land Management, all excavation on this site must cease immediately. This is federal land.
This is outrageous. You're trespassing on HOA property. I have a legal claim.
Jack Reynolds stepped from the pines, the rolled deed in his grip, his face unreadable.
Your claim is void. Jack Reynolds holds the mineral patent since 1881. You've been digging on property you never owned.
He forged that. I demand to see proof. Someone call my lawyer.
Jack slowly unfurled the thick parchment, the embossed seal of the Reynolds Mineral Trust, catching the sunlight. A woman in the front row gasped. Martha Klein stood, her binder thudding to the dirt. The word fraud rippled through the crowd.
I told you, Nancy, you should have stopped digging when you had the chance.
The Reynolds Mineral Trust, dated 1881, covers every subsurface mineral in parts of Colorado, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, and Oregon. Your dig is felony trespass on 6 states of federal mineral estate.
And it gets worse. This isn't a gold mine. It's a uranium deposit leased to the Department of Energy for $14 million a year. You've triggered a national security incident.
My grandfather knew what was under this mountain. The DOE has paid my family a lease since 1972. You just dug into a $14 million a year national secret.
Uranium? No, I filed for gold. This is a mistake. My lawyers will fix this.
Your excavation breached a containment buffer. This is now a Class A security incident under the Atomic Energy Act. There are no mistakes, only felonies.
Our reserves. $80,000. You spent everything on a uranium pit?
The crowd erupted. People screamed about lost savings, about the radiation risk, about the lies. The event turned into an instant inquisition.
Everyone who participated in the excavation will be detained for questioning. This site is now a federal crime scene. I never meant. It was just an abandoned hole. Nobody told me about any uranium.
You built your own trap, Nancy. Now the federal government will spring it. You dug for gold and found a prison cell instead.
Doe hazmat teams in white sealed suits swept through the crowd, Geiger counters clicking like death watches.
Your excavation breached a radioactive waste buffer. The readings confirm U-308 contamination. You triggered a Class B security incident.
Yellow crime scene tape was stretched around the excavation pit, the mine site transforming into a federal cordon.
Nancy Whitfield, you are under arrest for felony mineral trespass, fraud, and violation of the Atomic Energy Act.
The handcuffs clicked tight around her wrists. The crowd went silent except for a single sob from Martha.
$80,000. Our life savings. You stole everything.
You promised us gold, and you dug up our financial grave. We trusted you, Nancy.
An agent opened the black SUV door, and Nancy was guided inside, her face a mask of blank horror. Jack stood motionless, the deed heavy in his palm, watching the black caravan disappear down the dusty road.
She thought she was digging for gold, but all she found was the bottom of a federal prison sentence.
Jack turned to the stunned HOA members, their faces a mask of rage and betrayal, their savings vaporized.
I tried to warn her, and I tried to warn you. This mine has been in my family since 1881. You were digging on a uranium deposit.
Why didn't you stop us sooner? We lost everything. Our whole community is broken.
I gave her every chance to walk away. She chose greed, and she dragged you down with her.
Our entire reserve is gone. We'll lose our homes. What do we do now?
From the back of the departing SUV, Nancy's hysterical voice cut through the dust.
You'll pay for this, Jack Reynolds. You'll pay!
Jack ignored her, holding the unfurled deed up like a legal shield.
The head frame is now federal property. Go home and try to rebuild. That's all I can tell you.
He turned and walked toward his truck, leaving the crowd to stare at the head frame now plastered with federal notices. Federal workers hammered property of U.S. government signs into the ground around the head frame.
We'll need a full environmental remediation. This site won't be safe for weeks.
Everything is gone. Our retirement, the kids' college fund. She stole it all.
She lied to our faces, and we believed every word. We were fools.
Through the tinted window of the black SUV, Nancy Whitfield stared at nothing, her wrists raw from the handcuffs.
She's facing a minimum of 10 years on the federal charges. The HOA will be lucky to avoid civil suits for the contamination.
The DOE hazmat team unrolled thick containment mats over the exposed uranium, their Geiger counters still buzzing. One by one, the black SUVs pulled away down the dirt road, the convoy shrinking into a cloud of dust. Martha sank to her knees, the binder slipping from her fingers, its pages scattering in the wind. And the headframe stood silent, its new federal seal glinting in the high mountain sun. Jack's truck rolled into the cabin clearing, the pines parting like old guardians. He carried the rolled deed inside and set it in an old frame above the fireplace. Beside it, a sepia photograph of his grandfather stared out, a pickaxe in his grip. Jack struck a match and lit the kindling, the flames licking up around the glass. Outside, the news van packed up its satellite dish and rumbled down the dirt road. The valley fell silent, the only sound the crackle of the hearth in the cabin. Jack sat in his grandfather's chair, the orange glow catching the seal on the deed.
The mine is safe. The threats are gone. He would have been satisfied.
The fire settled to embers, and the cabin wrapped around him like an old coat. And for the first time in months, the mountain night felt like home again. A week later, the County Weekly ran the headline, HOA chair charged, feds pursue 10-year sentence for mine trespass. The HOA emergency session lasted 4 hours. By the end, the board voted to dissolve by unanimous consent. A week later, a for sale by bank sign hung crookedly on the clubhouse door. In his cabin, Jack unfolded a crisp letter from the Department of Energy, a gold seal gleaming at the bottom. The letter read, "In recognition of your cooperation and adherence to federal mineral law, the lease will be renewed at the current annual sum of $14 million. Jack reached for a small wooden case and placed the chunk of dark uranium ore inside, next to the deed.
This rock nearly sent her to prison, but it's been feeding my family for 50 years.
He closed the case and walked to the window, the distant headframe visible through the pines, now silent and secure. The certificate of commendation rested on the mantel, framed beside his grandfather's weathered photograph. And for the first time in a long while, the Reynolds mine didn't feel like a burden. It felt like a legacy. Jack walked the old logging road to the mine, the late sun gilding the pine needles. He stopped at the granite boulder near the entrance, the bronze plaque dull with age. His fingers traced the raised letters, Reynolds Mineral Trust, established 1881.
13 decades, 6 states and 1 HOA. Karen couldn't scratch it.
A dark flake of ore caught the light in the gravel. He picked it up. He turned it in his palm, the crystalline surface catching the last rays. Then he slipped it into his pocket and took a long look at the headframe. He leaned back against the rusted steel, crossing his arms. A rare, quiet smile crossed his face as the sun dipped below the range, and the Reynolds mine was, at last, at peace. Jack reached into his back pocket and pulled out the rolled deed, the ribbon loose. He unrolled it slowly, the 1881 seal catching the last light.
6 states, 1 piece of paper, and 100 years of trouble, worth every bit.
He rolled it tight, pressed it into his jacket, and pushed off the steel. The headframe stood silhouetted against the fading orange, the new federal signs faintly glowing. He started down the trail, the crunch of gravel under his boots. The stars began to pepper the sky, and a cool wind moved through the pines. He didn't look back. There was no need. The headframe, the federal tape, the sealed pit, all faded into the blackness. And the screen went slowly to black.